Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Lisa Brazelton, here with my co host, Chris Noble, and we are from Wisdom from the Edge. And man, it has been a wild, wacky week. How are you doing? Is
Yeah,
time speeding up, right?
it's planet
How about
speed.
that multitasking, right? Has that been put into 10th gear? Well, today we're going to talk about abundance. What does abundance mean? What does it not mean? And how can we expand our understanding of abundance to actually incorporate what I think is the true essence of abundance, which is not about finances, even though it can include it. It's not about a relationship, even though it can include it. It's about being comfortable on a level that um, you're perfect just the way you are. And every event that's happening is actually to your benefit. That to me, and we'll talk about this, but that to me is like, okay, let's play with this piece about what abundance really is. What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, it's also what's your definition of abundance, right? Like we said, there's the obvious thing of financial abundance, and that's beautiful. And that's a wonderful thing. There's abundance of so many other things. I remember recently when I was in Greece and I was actually having some more, let's say, financial challenges, as we all do at many points in our lives. And just traveling, spending more money than you expect, right? And I'm sitting in my room in Greece in Athens, being like, "Oh man, I don't know what I'm gonna do." And then all of a sudden, my friend texts me. He's like, "Hey, I found you." Like, I was looking for an apartment back in Vancouver, Canada, while traveling in Europe, and I hadn't started looking yet, and I didn't know how that was even going to happen. But I was trusting. I was definitely trusting in that moment. And my friend, texts me and says, "Hey, I found you the perfect apartment." And that's where I'm currently recording from now, and it all lined up beautifully. And that was a wonderful moment of this abundance of friendship, of community, and a living situation, a roof over my head. So it wasn't like money came in per se, but it was definitely abundance in that sense of community, friendship, someone looking out for me. I didn't have to lift a finger; it all just fell into my lap. That to me is another of many infinite examples of abundance. I woke up today and just was able to have a really, like, I nailed my cup of coffee, like the perfect ratio. It tastes so rich and delicious. I was like, there's some nice abundance right there. Like, that was just a beautiful way to start the day. So what is your definition of abundance? I'd love to hear from everyone watching and listening. Like, let us know in the comments, because it is a definition. We can think of abundance in a lot of different ways. And like, what is it to you, Lisa? I'm curious.
Oh, I always start with what is it not?
Yeah.
Well, abundance isn't a mindset that's fear based. Abundance isn't living in a scarcity mindset. Abundance isn't jealousy or lack of forgiveness or judgment. That's not abundance. And but abundance is and can be the most unusual things. One of the things that I do every night is I write a list of the things I'm grateful for the day. And to me, that is sitting in a place of abundance. Even though I may have had a crappy afternoon or something really didn't go the way I was hoping to go, or I'm still waiting on, like you and I are, but like and I'm sure that, audience, you may be in this cycle that things are taking longer than expected. But yet there's abundance in that. And it's like we can see the gifts in life. And that's an abundant mindset when we can just stop and appreciate the fact that we're breathing, the fact that we don't have to think about our breath, the fact that our heart beats and we're getting nourishment and we're making good choices in our lives to be hydrated. And that's abundance. And Chris, you and I talk about this all the time, is that when we have an abundance mindset, there's very little that we have to do because we are aligning ourselves with experiences that are matching our abundance mindset. And it's not easy, okay? That takes practice, especially with, I mean, I was in a circumstance where, I was in an apartment several years ago, but, I had a roof that was dripping. And I, had talked with my landlord, hey, can you fix this? I never fixed it. Well, the roof came down. Thank God I wasn't there, but the roof came down. And I mean, it was like, it was on the bed, and it was, it was just like it ruined everything. Um, it's interesting because we can focus on those memories and be like, nothing's gonna happen. Like that's all I'm gonna think about, you know. But an abundant mindset is going beyond that. Like, okay, you know what? I don't want this anymore. What do I want? Right, Chris? Like, what are the things that are important to me? And that's why even just doing like a gratitude journal, or I just type it on my phone, and I'm like, you know what? I'm grateful that I got to sleep in today, or I'm grateful I'm going to bed early. I'm grateful that I had a cup of tea, or I was actually able to get something done that I thought was going to take me longer. I mean, there's small things.
Yeah, and it's not about the external world, although it can materialize in that way, and that's okay. And there's nothing wrong with this materialism-based abundance, but it's certainly not the full spectrum and not the full picture. And the material abundance truly does come in a lot more when there's an energetic and a frequency behind it, meaning when you're practicing gratitude every day, that's a frequency. That is a way of resonating and living and moving through your day-to-day life. And that frequency, like a magnet, will attract other frequencies, other things in that ballpark. So if you're in that gratitude spectrum of emotion and feeling, then you're going to bring in more things to be grateful for. And then it just keeps piling and piling and piling. And even when other things that maybe aren't so lovely happen to you, you're able to still look around and like, well, at least I'm breathing, at least I've got my bed, at least I've got my loved ones, at least I've got X, Y, Z, whatever it needs to be. And that way you're constantly moving through life at that particular frequency, which then magnetizes in other things of that frequency more and more and more and more. So you start to expect abundance. And that's the beautiful thing, that when you switch and you actually start to build these expectations, I think expectations are okay, because you can reframe that word as also just a way of manifestation. I expect something is another way of saying I'm bringing in something into my life. It's the same kind of energy, I think. It's the same kind of intention. So when you expect abundance, guess what? You receive abundance. And when I've hung out with extremely wealthy people, I actually really enjoy being around their energy and presence, because it is they're operating at a different frequency. Now, does that mean every aspect of their life is perfect? Absolutely not. Of course not. They're human just like all of us, and there might be other things that they are moving through in their life. But one thing they've definitely mastered is that physical abundance and that expectation, where they're like, oh, I expect $1 million to come in next week, and it does. And I'm like, I'm always blown away at that. It's like that was one of the big defining differences I was noticing with wealthy people I've met throughout my whole life, is there's an expectation of abundance. And
Yeah.
I've liked that. I'm like, I'm taking that into my life. I expect abundance. And once again, does it always have to come in with a buttload of cash, which is great, but it's also not the only way that we can define abundance. Like I was giving the example before, an apartment might fall in your lap, or even smaller things, just like a free coffee one day. All of a sudden someone orders the wrong thing, and boom, you get this free coffee, or you get that perfect parking space, or you know what I mean? Like it can go in so many small or like micro or macro levels, but it's a frequency, I think.
So I love what you're saying. And what I want to, there are three things that I'm like, yes, yes, yes. So the principle of polarity, I want to touch base on just for a second. But um, when we talk about abundance, we're also talking about the space that we can create to allow the receivership of things to show up. And the best way of doing that is to give. So an abundance mindset is a giving mindset. And you're mentioning, a coffee. There's many times if I go through like a Starbucks drive through, I will pay for someone's drink behind me and total pay it forward. And, I don't need a pat on the back. I don't need any of that. I never know who that person is, but I know that I've done something that sparked a chain of events, that it raised their frequency, it raised my frequency. And what did they say? When you give, you receive 10,000 times. So an abundant mindset for me is also in that opening the space so I can step in to be a receivership. And the way in which to do that is to be a giver, right? A giving of me in the smallest little things. And when we're saying about giving, we're not saying, be a doormat, right? We're saying like, really look at the little things that you can do, right? You can open the door up for, an elderly person, or if you're on, public transportation, you can let them sit down. I mean, there's thousands of different things that we can do that will allow for that receivership of blessings to come back to us.
And as well, it's coming from a frequency. One of the bigger defining things, and I think when I was younger, I would sometimes give more at an ego level where I'm like, how generous am I? Selfie, or something like, look at me giving up that seat. And it's like, that's still okay because you're still doing a kind act, but there is more ego behind that, where I see sometimes online on social media, like, people kind of bragging about their generosity. And so there's a bit of a twist there. But even if you're coming at it from an ego perspective, you're still being generous. And I mean, there's worse things to be doing with your ego. And we do have ego for a reason. It's not like we want to completely abolish it, but it is also something to recognize, am I giving, like you said, without needing to tell a soul? Because that's really where you can get to a frequency of like, I'm not doing this for praise. I'm not doing this for social status. I remember as a musician playing a lot of charity events with the white sort of collar, like tie, like very fancy, wealthy charity events where all the rich people come in and give to a random cause that they probably know nothing about. And they just love to throw their money at things and be like, look how much I'm giving. Oh no, I'm going to give more. No, I'm going to, and it's all like a status thing. It's not really about the cause, even though they're generating money at the end of the day for a cause, but it's all coming from ego. It's the same kind of thing. It's like, okay, that's fine. And can we get to a place where we're just doing it because it feels good? We're just doing it, because that's the way all of us really, I think, are hardwired at the core as human beings. We're compassionate. We're community based. We care. I heard something really fascinating yesterday where someone was actually saying how a lot of the problems in the world can actually be traced back to the fact that we're so compassionate that we get warped with our different belief systems throughout the whole world of so and so's bad because they're doing X, Y, Z, and we get pinned against each other. A lot of the times we get divided and pinned against each other for an infinite amount of different reasons. But actually at the core of why we get angry at other human beings and have these divisions is because of our compassion, because we think that this other group is wronging other people and we don't like that, so we want to stand up for that, whatever that is. But it's actually coming from a place of we care about each other. And so it can be manipulated and come out in these negative ways sometimes. But at the core of it, it's compassion. It's that humans, like we actually, before we get programmed to hate each other and divide and work against each other, you look at any kid in like a kindergarten class, doesn't matter what walk of life any of those kids are from, they're all just playing together. They're all just enjoying each other's community. And that's really where we come from as a species, is compassion. And that's one of the things I've also learned with abundance is, it wasn't until I started having more compassion for myself that my abundance, started to actually come in the ways I wanted it to. And it wasn't just a random thing. So I don't know, Lisa, if you can speak to like the self-love journey and the whole inner journey of trusting yourself so that the abundance can come in.
Yeah. Yeah. I do want to say that there are three levels. There's an expectation, there's a preference. Um, I am a big fan of having preferences over expectations because expectations actually fuels the emotional thread, and preferences they don't, right? So if there's something that we really want, if we put it into the bucket of a preference, then if it doesn't happen, we're okay. It's like, it's like, well, if, I'm going to the store and I want to get something, but they don't have it or they ran out of it. Okay. So I'll have to, plan B. But then I think you're also talking about, people who are financially wealthy have a command over. And so there is an expectation, but I think it goes to a different level. And that level is commanding. They expect it. They believe in it as if I believe in the color of my hair. Right? They don't think twice about something, because what is money? Money is energy. Everything is energy. And so to talk about what you were saying, there is a judgment that oftentimes happens. And you were making a comment of, you were doing some work with and playing on different sets at different charity and fundraisers. And I know, and I've been to a lot of charity and fundraisers, and I know a lot of people who are, are beyond a wealthy scope, right? I mean, of what we would consider to be wealthy. And many of those people are incredibly generous, and they often are very anonymous in their generosity. And there is something very interesting. So I almost interrupted you, Chris, when you said, when you're taking a selfie at the same time that you're being generous. And I don't think that that's the definition of abundance, because from an energetic perspective, if our intention is actually doing something that is a little bit more ego driven to be seen, even though an act may be of kindness, there is it almost as if it cancels out.
Yeah, it's like a disconnect, right?
It's a disconnect. So instead of it thinking, that energy kind of is that stone's throw, that pebble in the pond, the ripple effects probably aren't going to show up for you like you think it may show up, because our intentions are also a vibrational frequency. And so what do we need? At the end of the day, what do we need in order to actually be in a state of abundance is to love thyself, is to know thyself, is to love ourselves so much that nothing else matters. And that is I think that most people, and I don't, maybe that's even a judgment, but a lot of people think that abundance means something outside of themselves, as you said earlier, Chris. But true abundance is what feels and fuels the self. It's self-awareness. It's mindfulness. It's mindful breathing. It's mindful eating. It's mindful speaking. It's mindful listening. It's having such love for self that we want to do kindness and nurture ourselves. We want to further maybe our own pursuits. We want to find what our purpose is. All of these things are part of an abundance mindset. And I can guarantee you, listener, and if you like what we're saying, please give us some thumbs up here and give us some comments, because I can tell you, you do that for a week and you focus on your own self-love and you raise your vibrational frequency, I guarantee you the things that you really want, A, they'll show up in a way that you didn't expect. And B, they may actually show up only because you're not putting the attention on. Because when we focus on what we want so much on the outside that we don't have, even on the inside, I don't have the love, we're only going to get that which we don't want. So we have to really be mindful about what we're focusing on.
Yeah, it's like a lot of the times when we're really wanting financial abundance, all we can focus on is how much we don't have. And when you focus on the how much you don't have, and I'm very well versed in this area, and it is challenging, and I totally can empathize with the audience when you're like, yeah, but how? Or okay, fine, but it's like, how do I get out of that? And I wanted to offer one tool that's really helped me, especially more recently, is my kind of rediscovery of human design and learning how I operate through human design and how I manifest and how I bring in the things that I want into my reality. We do have different ways that work perhaps a little bit better for our natural way of being, to bring these things in, to bring in the abundance that we're looking for. And so I learned through my rediscovery of human design that one of the best ways that I can manifest is by informing people. So just by saying, hey, like, we'll talk about the financial side. So hey, I'm looking for some new work opportunities to bring in more financial abundance. What do you got? Like, do you have anything in your network or in your community that you might be able to connect me with? Things like that. Just asking, just informing. You don't even have to ask, you're just informing them. Hey, this is what I'm working on right now. Hey, this is what I'm doing right now. That for me has helped significantly, even just in the last month, to bring in actually so much opportunity that I'm totally overwhelmed, and it's amazing.
That's
So
fantastic.
so human design, and I'm going to put it in the show notes below. So
Okay.
everyone, check out the link where you can sign up for your own free human design chart, and explore
Hmm.
that. Let us know in the comments if you feel that it resonates at all with you.
Yeah, so human design was kind of a brainchild, I think, from Richard Rudd, who created the Gene Keys, who I have been following and studying the work of the Gene Keys since it wasn't even a book.
Wow.
Richard, if you ever listen to this, it was in a binder, so I was able to take the pages out. Anyway, that was back in like 2011, something like that,
These are
2010.
really amazing too. Yeah.
The Gene Keys are incredible, and you can also get a free profile.
Yeah.
And one of the things is so interesting about the human design and the Gene Keys is that is a really wonderful way of discovering some things about yourself, because they're based on your patterns. They're based on obviously it's your birth chart, your name, your date of birth, you know the time, that kind of thing. But there is a very, very important signature template that each one of us has. And based on what, you know, this information, it spits out this wonderful amalgamy of I think, a living library of ways in which we are able to attune or retune to not only some of our triggers, right? But then how do we get out of those triggers, or what can we transcend those triggers to a gift? And so, one of the best ways, like Chris said, but I am a big believer of self mastery. How do we deepen our level of self awareness? One of the things that I do on a daily basis is anything that triggers me is a beautiful opportunity for me to go to the mirror and say, okay, what was that? What inside of me is not, maybe I need some more attention or nurturing or love or forgiveness or whatever. But any opportunity that I have on my outer world that triggers me in a negative way, I want to look at that in a personal way and see what is it that I need to alter, to shift, to forgive, to bubble up to the surface so I can actually face that and transcend it. And I don't have to go through, therapy to do it. I just want to bring it to the surface. So I'm like, oh, wow, that's really interesting that I got triggered over something like that. And I'm not going to blame somebody else for it. I'm going to look straight in the mirror. And so, being able to be that brave, that courageous, I think, um, should be a regular characteristic of all of us, to say, the problems are within us. And when we can realize that peace does come in the world, it starts here, right here, with each and every one of us.
And that's the encouraging thing is we always look at, well, I don't watch the news anymore, but a lot of people, when you see what's going on in the world, it's all this external stuff, and you're like, oh my God, what can I do? I'm kind of helpless here. It's like, well, the one thing we do have control over is how we want to move through our life and how we navigate our existence and our reality, how we look inward, how we love thyself, understand thyself, and to understand thyself, there's these really beautiful tools like Gene Keys, like Human Design, and many, many others. Human Design is a combination of the I Ching and quantum mechanics and astrology and a whole bunch of other stuff. I mean, it's just, so there's lots of tools out there. And there's even courses like a thing called the Self Mastery Program that we do here at Wisdom from the Edge. And that's a program I've been involved in for 2 years now. And talk about self mastery, when you put that intention into something like a workshop like what we're doing, and maybe there's other things that resonate with you, but if you are looking for something like this, this is a call where we do it once a month with a really small group, a nice small container of about 5 people. And we go through the 12 principles of human mastery. And we not only digest the concept, but then we have a safe space to share what that concept has been like in that month, moving through day to day life, and then be able to share that vulnerably with other people and be in a really loving, nurturing space. So there's lots of ways that you can get into your self mastery. And one of the really awesome ways is to be in a container of people. So if that does resonate, also check out the show notes because there's links to that program and more information. And of course, you can always just follow up with Lisa or myself if you have more questions about that. But more so than anything, it really comes back, like you said, Lisa, to this inward journey. It's all about the internal world.
Yes, and thank you. The Self Mastery Program was created back in 2018. I architected it based on my understanding of the Hermetic principles and looking at there are 7 universal laws. So polarity, cause and effect, correspondence, rhythm, gender. And how do we then bring this ancient, beautiful information by bringing in some of the latest in neuroscience into our everyday life? So, it's been such a great journey for me to be able to witness people's massive transformations. It's incredible. And the people stay together. I mean, this isn't a group that meets randomly once a month. It is a group of people who come together at the beginning, and there is no end because the people who are working together stay together for a very long time, of lifelong friends and colleagues, just because of the bond, the intimacy that happens within the group, and the sharing and the caring is really profound. And I just want to end this with what is like one of the best, if not the best, ways in which we can incorporate or imbue abundance is our mother Gaia, nature. She gives us a snapshot every second, every millisecond. All we have to do is go out and look. And she is a wonderful living example for us to be able to mirror and appreciate that we live in such incredible abundance that she teaches.
Yep. I think I recommend nature every single episode for anything that we talk about, and it all comes back to Gaia, to Mother Earth. And there's moments where I'll come out of maybe I meditate a little bit on the beach, and I'll come out of the meditation and I feel like I'm a billionaire. Like I just feel that abundance, even if it's not physically in my bank account. It doesn't matter. I feel infinite. I feel so connected and so powerful in those moments with nature. That's where the cheat codes of abundance can really come in, when you really quote unquote have nothing, but you feel like you have everything, because you do, because we are everything. So enjoy that nature, everybody. Get out there, have some fun, check out our self mastery program. Let us know in the comments what you think abundance is for you. and any tools or techniques that you've come across that have helped you on your journey with abundance. Because when you share, you can also really help other people on that same journey. When you share your life journey, there's usually something in it for somebody else as well. So thank you in advance. And thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
watching this episode of Wisdom from the Edge.
Thank you all so much. Thank you, Chris, for your wisdom and for your sharing. Thank you again. Listener, if you like this, please give us some thumbs up, subscribe. We'd love to hear from you. We're getting started, and we know that part of the podcast is like just doing the work. And, give us a thumbs up and let us know we're doing a good job. Okay? We'd appreciate it very much. Thank you. Bye.
Take care, everyone. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Wisdom from the Edge. It's such a pleasure to have you with us. And make sure, if you haven't already, to follow, like, and subscribe to our channel. We really appreciate that. It actually helps us out quite a lot in growing this platform. And also leave us a comment if you haven't already. We'd love to hear from you, hear your thoughts about what you enjoyed on this episode and things that you want to offer, maybe ideas for a new episode or things that you want to hear more about. Also, make sure to check out our website, wisdomfromtheedge.org. All that is in the description below. And you can learn more about what we do, what offerings we have, and of course, the courses and programs. There's lots to learn from, a lot of really cool resources to check out to enhance your everyday life. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you on the next episode of Wisdom from the Edge.